Good evening. This is Eswatini TV News at 8, read to you by myself, Natile Sitole, alongside Nomakabiso Ngambule. First up, let's have a look at our top stories. The government of the Kingdom of Eswatini has announced the relaxation of COVID-19 regulations in various sectors. The Ministry of Natural Resources says the government is devising a master plan to guide the implementation of its WASH project. The United Nations Resident Coordinator says Eswatini is at arm's length towards achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And now the news in detail. Government has extended alcohol sale as COVID-19 cases remain low. Alcohol can now be sold from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. midweek and from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturdays for home consumption. This was announced by the Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini.
Following the significant decline in COVID-19 cases, the Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini has announced the extension of alcohol sales for home consumption. He says beverages remains prohibited at gatherings.
Sale and distribution of alcohol will now be allowed as follows. Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. However, alcohol sales remain strictly for home consumption, except where at restaurants. Alcohol at public events is prohibited. The serving of food and alcoholic beverages remains prohibited in all gatherings, including funerals, sporting and entertainment events. Also prohibited, gufugama, night vigils, nightclubs, all remain prohibited. Government remains committed to upscaling all COVID-19 prevention measures to protect lives and livelihoods that have been severely impacted by the effects of the virus. The easing of these measures is not an invitation for Eswatini to relax. COVID-19 is still an enemy lurking out in our midst and ready to strike with venom. We are reminded to be vigilant at all times and to refrain from any behavior that will expose us and our loved ones to the dreaded virus. I thank you.
He says the relaxation of the regulations means Eswatini must be more careful when it comes to COVID-19 because cases may be low, but if we do not adhere to the regulations, there may be a significant increase. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB, Mbabane.
Churches can now hold services more than once a week, not exceeding a period of 3 hours with strict adherence to COVID-19 regulations. This was announced by the Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini when announcing the relaxed COVID-19 restrictions.
Following a significant decline in COVID-19 cases and fatalities and an increase in the number of people who have vaccinated as of yesterday, 234,000, which is equivalent to 20% of Eswatini's population, have vaccinated for COVID-19. The Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini has announced that churches can now hold services for a period not more than 3 hours once a week with strict adherence to COVID-19 regulations.
Church services can now proceed more than once a week for a period not exceeding 3 hours at any given time, with strict adherence to the curfew and all COVID-19 preventative protocols. Community meetings. Community meetings will be allowed to operate normally under strict adherence to COVID-19 regulations.
He also announced that public transport can now return to full capacity.
Public transport will operate at full capacity as per their vehicle operating licenses under strict COVID regulations of all passengers wearing a full mask.
He encourages Eswatini to vaccinate as vaccines are available, including the Pfizer for children who are 12 years to 17 years and for the elderly. He says the easing of the restrictions is not an invitation for members of the public to relax as COVID-19 is still there. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian Msibi, Babane.
The Minister for Natural Resources and Energy, Peter Bembe, says government is in a process of developing a WASH master plan that will guide the implementation of the project to ensure that the country attains 100% access to WASH by 2030. The minister was speaking during a meeting with his ministry's portfolio committee in the House of Assembly.
Members of Parliament of the Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy's Portfolio Committee, together with the Ministry of Health's Portfolio Committee, had a meeting with the ministry stakeholders on issues of water, sanitation and hygiene. Addressing the meeting, the Minister for Natural Resources and Energy, Peter Bembe, says that the WASH master plan that is being developed will ensure that Eswatini access clean water.
Through government interventions and WASH partners, the country is in a process of developing a WASH master plan that will guide the implementation of projects to ensure the country attains 100% access to WASH services by 2030. Several WASH projects are implemented in the country by government and WASH partners to ensure that citizens have access to WASH services. Honorable Portfolio Committee members, the country has been in partnership with Sanitation and Water for All since 2017 and have seen great improvements on the WASH sector.
The Minister for Health, Lizinkosi, says contaminated water contributes to the outbreak of diseases.
I believe that even the health of mothers and young mothers would be very different if everybody had access to clean running water. That is one thing. And I know when I talk to WASH partners, they're saying, oh, that's not enough. There's sanitation. Of course there's sanitation, but it starts with water. And we need to deal with sanitation. And going beyond that is the issue of hygiene.
Minister Bembe urged the members of Parliament to prepare themselves for the WASH Global Handbook. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni in Ezulwini.
The Public Accounts Committee Chairperson Musa Gunene says what they uncovered on government accounts is very disappointing because there is a lot of corruption, more especially in government entities. Gunene was speaking in the House of Assembly earlier today.
When the House of Assembly resumed its parliamentary business on Thursday, the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee, Musa Gunene, moved a motion that the House adopts the committee's recommendations on the Auditor's General Financial and Compliance Audit Reports on government's accounts for the financial years ended on March 2020, and the seconder of the motion was Sibusiso Nxumalo, PAC's vice chairperson.
The Minister of Justice in Constitutional Affairs to table in the House an amendment to the Prevention of Corruption Act. Yana 2007 bahlonishwa. Sitawukhumbula ukuthi bahlonishwa. Kwaba nale court ruling yayishusha 2016 by the law. Nala khona sekuphele ukuthi 5 years ngama-process from now. Nala khona kulinda ukuthi kwenda anti-corruption ibe toothless bahlonishwa. Ngiyeke foreign mission. Bahlonishwa Mr. Speaker. Kubonile lapha bahlonishwa foreign mission. Ngeke sikufihle lokho. Bahlonishwa lesikukhanzika phande sisasebenza. Sikhanze ukuthi bahlonishwa lapha i-government procedures ayilandelelane foreign mission. Bayatendela nje bahlonishwa, bayatenike ama-loans. Baklina ama-allowances bahlonishwa Speaker labangawadeserve. Bathenga ama-expensive furnitures kukhona nje lakhona bathenga umbhede wa-228,000 umbhede.
Members of the House debated the report.
Lelibandla leParlamente lide imandate yokwenda certain things lokuhambelana nalamacala lala. Kodwa ngicabanga ukuthi ngale ka-anti-corruption khona bebangakhona kusukumiswa indaba yotithide ibuye imali kahulumeni. Kodwa nje mina ngiyacela ukuthi vele whoever is responsible asayacalculate Minister of Finance asayasendele tibalo sesive ukuthi ngeminyaka lelibandla le-anti-corruption lihola malini. bese kulomnyaka liyasitshela ukuthi liletha malini etafuleni lahulumende
ukuthi nje-ke lize lisenkingeni vele ngayo yonke lo mkhuhlane lesiwubonako kokuganga lapha, Mr. Speaker. Mina nje bengicela lokuthi kube kuyenzeka indlela yokuthi lo anti-corruption akavele nje asuswe kwenkosi ngoba nale mali laba-allocate-wa yona angathi ukuthi yani kuleti nkinga letingaka lesihlangana nato ngoba kuko konke lokhu yiyo le corruption. So vele bahlonishwa singakakuboni lokho sitawushiswa.
eMaswati akathole i-cause lemuva, there's nothing. Le mbino lengaphandle kulebela bentele yokubhukuthi bendala iyaqhubeka njengoba injalo. Next year times 2 the thickness yale report. Hey, Mr. Speaker, hlale phasi.
By the time of compiling this report, the House was still discussing the matter. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samgal Suekoza with Muslim Konta, Parliament.
The United Nations Resident Coordinator Natalie Ndongo says Eswatini still has a long way to go in achieving these Sustainable Development Goals. Ndongo has been speaking during a UN Head of Agencies meeting held at the Hilton Garden Inn with editors and senior journalists on Thursday.
Every year, the United Nations Eswatini holds dialogues with local editors and journalists on the works of the United Nations in Eswatini. On Thursday, UN heads of agencies in the country held a meeting with senior journalists and editors, which also turned out to be a farewell function for the UN Resident Coordinator Natal Ndongose as she's living in Eswatini. Speaking during the meeting, Natal Ndongose said Eswatini still has a long way to go in achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by 2030.
In the world is not on track to achieving Agenda 2030. It's clear that very few countries around the world will be able to achieve this by 2030. Eswatini is one of those that at this stage does not stand good chances to achieve that. If you see the indicators, Eswatini has been doing well under agenda number 3, which is good health, well-being, has been doing well on issues of gender equality, has been doing well on issues of what else? Climate action. When we say well, has been doing better than before, but it's not yet in the green to consider that this is achieved. But it is showing some progress. And in the other SDGs, such as poverty, such as hunger, peace, justice, Eswatini is stagnating, meaning that it's not doing worse, but it's not improving in some of these areas. And I repeat that this is the case not for the SDGs, but overall countries around the world may not be able to achieve this.
Chairperson of the Eswatini's Editors Forum, Bongeni Mbingo, acknowledged the works of the RS while she was in Eswatini.
Thank you to the wonderful person that has been here in this country and has worked with us for so long, wanting to see the best out of us as the media. I know, Excellency, there is time to meet. It's beautiful. And it's filled with all the expectations of what could happen or what can happen. Then there is a time also to leave. It's filled with pain, sadness, and regrets sometimes. But also it has beautiful positive memories that we can look back on.
Natal Ndongose is leaving Eswatini on Friday to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samka Suekoza with Gianni Msibi, Babane.
The United Nations Resident Coordinator in Eswatini, Natalie Ndongo says it is parents and leaders' responsibility to protect pupils. Ndongo condemns weaponizing children by putting dangerous information into their heads. She was speaking when meeting the Editors Forum in Babane today.
Editors from different media houses during the Editors Forum meeting extended questions to the United Nations Resident Coordinator On issues regarding the school's closure in the country, the UN's resident coordinator, Natalie Ndongose, stated that those responsible for putting dangerous ideas to pupils need to desist from such, as this exposes pupils to different dangers, such as being abused when they are not in schools.
This is a global world. The Eswatini kids should be able to compete tomorrow with the Chinese, with the American, and all the others. But by exposing our children to issues for which I believe children have no business dealing with, we are actually taking major risks. Children should remain in school. We know that many of them, by being at home, may not have the one meal that they have in school. They may be subjected to abuse, and we have the figures about domestic and sexual abuse to which some of them are exposed. So I was calling on us as adults and hopefully parents to really get our acts together and to say not only for their education, developmental growth, but also for their safety and security. They should be in schools and not schools in which the issues that are keeping us adults busy should be discussed. So at present, we are going back to the government to say we want the schools to be reopened. But we are also asking those who even inadvertently are instrumentalizing or weaponizing the children or putting anything in their heads to stop. They have lost enough.
Ndongose says pupils have lost enough. She further appeals to parents to keep their children safe, as this is their responsibility. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni with Kiani Msibi in Babane.
The U.S. Ambassador Jane Maloney has asked the Maswati to exercise patience while preparing for the national dialogue and avoid dragging learners to politics, as that delays them, which makes them less competitive than their peers in other countries who are currently at school. Ambassador Maloney was speaking at Matapa during the International Day for Rural Women.
The current political situation is deeply concerning and has several drivers: economic, political, human rights, cultural, and service-related. His Majesty King Mswati III has committed to dialogue, and we hope that preparations begin now on the framework, in full collaboration with civil society. Inclusive, peaceful, and constructive dialogue on issues of concern to Eswatini will help this country be a land of opportunity for all. I'm so grateful that Business Eswatini is honoring rural business women in leadership this month, and that you invited me to speak with you. I'm encouraged and inspired by the work you do. I applaud the establishment of this new partnership and your investment in rural women.
Far East Garments Textiles has played a vital role in providing job opportunities for women and the youth. This was said by Far East Director Turkey Ho during the celebration of International Rural Women's Day in Matapa.
Far East Garments, a clothing and textile company in Masapa, under the directorship of Toke Ho, has played a vital role in empowering women with sewing skills and exporting their products. This includes even the youth and women from constituencies. Speaking during the International Day for Rural Women, Far East Garments Director Toke Ho says this time around they've included people with disabilities as well, and for the first time they have an underwear factory.
We have started showing Eswatini what women can do, and how women, when they stand together and want to work for a program to grow and create some good news for our young girls, and of course not forgetting the people that are living with disability that are part of this. What are we doing to the Kingdom of Eswatini? We're creating jobs.
The UN representative in Eswatini, Natalie Ndongose, who will be leaving the country as the UN rep tomorrow, says she treasures every moment she has with Vugani Bomaga and businesswomen in Eswatini, and applauded them for creating employment to the youth and women of Eswatini.
I have no doubt that all ladies here today think not only of themselves, but their families and communities in their endeavors to earn a living. I am continuously inspired by the strengths of rural women whom I meet on a regular basis, many of whom, like yourselves, are a vision of hope for our future generations.
Tibonile Dlamini from Vugani Youth, a company under Vugani Bomage, says as young women they've been empowered with skills at a time when they were unemployed.
We designed the underwear, and then our lovely mothers, they sew for us the underwears, the baby clothes, the sanitary pads, the duvets, which, as you can see, this is everything that we are doing here.
The products are available at buyeswatini.com and physically at Far East. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB Matsapa.
And now we'll have a look at our financial markets. Good evening once again. You are still watching Eswatini TV. Let's have a look at our sports news. 2,000 vaccinated football supporters will now be able to enjoy the beautiful games, especially soccer matches that will be played in Mavuso and Somhlolo stadiums respectively. This was announced by the Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini during a press conference.
All sporting events can now resume operating under strict observance of relevant sector COVID-19 protocols and the general COVID-19 preventative measures of physical distancing, sanitizing, and proper wearing of masks. Up to a maximum of 2,000 vaccinated spectators will be allowed at Somhlolo National Stadium and Mavuso Sports Center. Other open grounds will be allowed up to 500 vaccinated spectators, also under strict COVID-19 regulations.
Eswatini Sports and Recreational Council has announced 75 athletes from 6 sporting codes expected to represent the country in December's Region 5 Youth Games in Lesotho. The council says legal logistics have been followed in selecting the team, especially when it comes to ensuring that the athletes are indeed under the age of 17.
Eswatini Sports and Recreation Council has announced 75 athletes from 6 sporting codes expected to represent the country in this year's Region 5 Youth Games in Lesotho, December. The athletes are from Swimming Association, Athletics Association, Boxing Association, Football Association, Volleyball Association and Taekwondo Association. Sport Council Public Relations Officer Tumsane Ndiwane says they have ensured that all legal logistics are followed in selecting the athletes, mostly ensuring that indeed they are under 17.
The team has been verified and the team is already in camp. In fact, what happens is that the council actually sends accreditation to, you get accredited to play in the Region 5 games. So we usually require the birth certificates from our players this side to verify their ages. So we are hopeful in fact we know that all the players are under the age of 17. You will recall that due to the COVID-19, most of our codes were not as active. So the truth is that we have not been active due to COVID-19. So it was the federations themselves felt Lama teams that actually have a chance of bringing back medals with the boys' teams. So it was, in short, the association's decisions.
Diwane went on to mention that under volleyball it will be only a girls' team, while under football it will be only a boys' team. The games will begin on the 3rd to the 13th of December this year. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Babane.
The Secretary General of the Athletics Association of Eswatini, Toba Mazibuko, says the upcoming Under-17 track and field competition between Eswatini and Mozambique will allow the national Under-17 athletics team, expected to represent the country in the Region 5 Youth Games in December this year, to adequately prepare for the Games. The event between the two nations will be held at the Mavuso Sports Center in Manzini on Sunday.
In preparations for the Region 5 Youth Games to be staged in Lesotho December this year, Athletic Association of Eswatini will be hosting the Republic of Mozambique in a track and field competition this coming weekend at the Mavuso Sports Center. According to the Secretary General of the association, Toba Mazibuko, the selected 10 athletes to represent the country will face off with selected team from Mozambique that will also be attending the games. Mazibuko added that this will indeed boost the preparations of the Eswatini team heading to the games.
It will be a good chance for us to gauge our team and the readiness. We trust that everything will go well. We would like to invite our clubs and athletes to be part of this event. We wish to have been doing a lot in preparation for this team, but unfortunately, due to the current situation we have in the country, we would have loved to have these athletes on camp where they would seriously prepare themselves, but unfortunately funds are also limiting, but we hope the team will do their level best to ensure that they participate and represent the country well.
Mazibuko concluded revealing that the competition will also be open for young talented athletes in preparations for next year's Region Youth Games. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Babane.
That's all for now. Before we conclude, let's have a look at our top stories. The government of the Kingdom of Eswatini has announced the relaxation of COVID-19 regulations in various sectors. The Ministry of Natural Resources says the government is devising a master plan to guide the implementation of its WASH project. The United Nations Resident Coordinator says Eswatini is at arm's length towards achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And with that, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the update from myself and the team here at Eswatini TV. Thank you for your company. Good night.